Hey, what's up, Zach here, and today I've got the all-new Nike Vomero 18. Let's get into them. All right, now starting off in the uppers, honestly, it's a pretty basic upper, right? You do get cabling that makes some integrated lace eyelets, and you do get a runner's knot in there. It's there for a reason. I would use it. If you don't use that runner's knot, heel slippage is moderate. If you do use the runner's knot, the heel slippage is very mild, even with an orthotic in these. Pretty mild heel slippage, and the lace irritation really was not bad at all, even with an orthotic in these. The tongue is pretty thick and padded. It's light padding, but because the laces lay through these cables, they lay a little bit more horizontal. Like I said, the irritation was pretty much none for me, and I have a high arch foot. As you go into the forefoot, it's just padded textile mesh. There's 2 layers in it, which, I mean, it's like I said, it's comfortable. The tongue does have a pretty nice gusset to it, so it does stay pretty steady in the shoe. The rear foot is padded. There's not a lot of padding around the ankle collar, so if you're using these a lot, you might start to wear through that padding a little bit. The good thing is you'll break in the shoe more, so the heel slippage will kind of decrease from that. The heel counter it's there, but it's not super secure. It's a little bit more of a light and flexible heel counter. We'll see that in the fit section with the eversion potential of these things. You look at them on the breathability test, they did heat up 93.1 degrees. Now remember, I'm now taking simultaneous readings of the highest temperature on the inside and the center of the shoe. So those readings are actually a little bit lower than they normally are. So this is, it's not bad by any means, but it's definitely not where some of the other Nike running shoes are. It's a little bit higher. That's just because you get a little bit more layering in the shoe. The gusset's a little bit more aggressive, a little more padding in the tongue. But look at the breathability mapping of them. It does take a second, but fog does start pouring out of the forefoot of the shoe. So honestly, for the comfort that the uppers have in them and their breathing capabilities, I actually think it's pretty good. It's a nice combination for sure in terms of comfort as well as breathability and moisture management. You go on the inside of the shoe on the upper durability test, 10 seconds highest grit sandpaper. These things do not have a nail guard to them. The burr just really kind of works that. So if you are someone that does do a lot of rubbing in the forefoot, you might want to throw some moleskin in there. All right, beginning in the midsole teardown, Nike is really on a kick with the Zoom X and React X combination. I, however, am not. I am not the biggest fan of that combination. It's plush, it's very comfortable. I do think there are some cons though, which we'll get into. So obviously it's top-loaded Zoom X and then bottom-loaded React. It is a full bed of each, right? It goes from stem to stern on both of those. I guess the React X is more of the carrier as well. There is no shank in these things, and you do get quite a big slab of that under the midfoot. It really does feel like the drop in these things is huge. It really does feel like you are sitting up super high in the heel, regardless of what the actual heel height and heel to toe drop is. The feeling is that you are just propped up, which is interesting. Focusing on the bounce height test, only 30 centimeters in the rear foot, 30 in the forefoot. And as we've seen with Zoom X, I mean, Zoom X is routinely getting into the 40, 43, 45 centimeter range on that thing. And it's the React X, right? React X and React, to me, much more shock absorbing foams, right? They just kind of deaden that ball bearing. So yeah, I mean, you do get a nice combination of shock absorption and a little bit more kick from that Zoom X, but because there is nothing for that Zoom X to bounce off of, yeah, it just ends up feeling more plush. Yes, very plush, very comfortable, but just don't expect these to be rocket ships, have a ton of kickback either. All right, but getting into the outsole tread, you've got the coupled tread all over the place. In the rear foot, you got a horseshoe of lugs. In the forefoot, you have 2 perimeters of lugs. And then in the midfoot, it's kind of just these rectangular, triangular shapes. I mean, they're basically lugs, but they're just hollowed out. Yeah, I mean, just trying to save weight on these things. Honestly, I mean, the grip on these is just fine. And to me, even for all these broken up lugs, I still thought that was actually a pretty smooth ride. Even for heel striking. So honestly, really not too bad. The durometer on this rubber is a lot harder in the central portion than it is on the periphery. So that, should tell you something. If you look at the speed ratio, that's a whole other story. These things come in at a 2.55. Shank score of a big old goose egg keeps that at a 2.55. Yeah, I mean, to me, they're just much more of a daily trainer, right? They're not super quick shoes. So they're much more of a plush riding shoe. To me, you kind of have to do a little bit more work in these versus maybe some other daily trainers just because of kind of how much you potentially could sink into these shoes. So like we'll get into that with fit in terms of the type of people who probably could be in these, but it is interesting, and especially from out of the box versus like 100 to 200 miles in, I think these shoes are going to go through some changes for sure. On the outsole durability test, 10 seconds high grit sandpaper. Yeah, honestly, pretty impressive. I mean, almost a millimeter damage on the peripheral rubber, and then just basically just cleans it off on the central rubber. So in terms of durability, I think as long as you don't shear too much, probably should be just fine. All right, but getting into the real fit of the Vomero 18 is its fit and performance. Now, number one, it only has a 7-degree in-flare, so it's a pretty mellow shoe. Thing is, it has a resting position of 0 degrees everted. With loading, that goes to 10 degrees. You can see this shoe is just collapsing immediately. And that's gonna have some issues for a lot of people, which I'll get to in a second once I get through the other stats on the shoe. It does come in at 29 centimeters in length, 9.7 centimeters of metatarsal width, 10.5 of toe box width, and a toe box taper of 28 degrees. So it actually is pretty mellow in the midfoot, say that 5 times fast. It just tapers, more like a traditional running shoe in the forefoot. I'd say, narrow foot, you probably go down a half size on these, especially because they are just a hair long. Get a little bit better of a lockdown, a little bit more weight reduction. Medium 2E, I'd probably just go true to size. A 4E, I think you can break them in true to size. If you want to go up a half size, I think that's fine. They lock down with the runner's knot just fine. So if you want a little more room, 4E, you're putting an orthotic in there, sure, go up a half size with them. In terms of who I'd be recommending these for, different gait styles, patients, who I'd be putting these in. Number one, when you have them out of the box, they do feel good for a rear foot striker, right? For a heel striker, just because they kind of glide into the forefoot really easily. They've got a little bit of a rocker down there, so it's nice. But remember, when you strike down on it, right? Remember, you strike down in a supinated position. At least most runners do. And then you pronate, then you got to resupinate. These things just, if you've ever really heavy strike, especially rear foot, it's going to take a lot to resupinate with this because it's just allowing so much eversion. So if you are a heel striker in these, I would have an orthotic in them. It's still, the base of the shoe is still going to collapse, but an orthotic will just help your foot resupinate a little bit easier. To me, these are best for midfoot strikers and forefoot strikers, just because you're not going to have as much issue getting through that gait cycle versus like a traditional gait cycle on these. In terms of like a walking shoe, yeah, I think they're okay. Eventually, the more you keep striking, to me that React X is going to start to break down. The Zoom X, to me, at least in my experience, the Zoom X is more durable than the React X is. And without a shank, I don't see the durability of that React X being fantastic. Like I said, it feels great. It feels super comfortable. I dare you to find a more plush feeling shoe, really. But remember, that comes with it some issues, especially in the rear foot, getting more of those negative heels, getting more of that eversion, right? Putting more strain on your posterior tibial tendon. So just remember that, soft and plush doesn't always equal long-term comfort, right? Sometimes you need more structure. There are people that really like it, especially people, like me, who over-supinate anyway, right? Like I have a high-arched C-shaped foot, right? So I have no problems resupinating, so I don't care, right? Like I like them, right? I liked running in these, I liked walking in these. It's fine for me. I'd wear these as a daily driver as well. For me, this is a good match, but for people that already have that strain, right? Arch strain, PT strain, PTTD, that's, like I said, where I think you're gonna get into some issues. So I'd say just as long as you're the right person for them, remember, because that React X and how soft it is, it's also not gonna be the best shoe out there for ankle sprainers, right? Because it just allows a lot of movement, a lot of compression. So just watch out for that too. So I think if you're the right runner, I think you're really gonna like them. I think if you're not, you're really not, or your body's just not going to like them. So like I said, I think it's gonna be a 50-50 thing. I think people in the comments are either gonna love them or maybe not so much. So I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below, especially if you were a fan of the 17s like I was. Let me know in the comments down below. And if you do want to see the other kind of really hyped up Nike running shoe that just came out, the Nike Pegasus Premium, and all the pros, cons, and craziness that comes along with that, make sure you click into this video up above and subscribe down below. Respect, rubber, and foam. I'll see you somewhere in the Sneakerverse.